Good evening, class. Let me hope that we are all good, we are well. So in today's session, we are going to look at two numbers for correction of errors. But as we go through these numbers, I will be hinting on the key points about double entry. So like I explained in the previous sessions, the reason as to why we are dwelling on these first topics is because this paper really bases so much on double entry. So your understanding of double entry determines your passing of this paper, financial accounting, paper 1, CPA paper 1. So we are going to practice two numbers, first paper, one of December 2024, and the other one will be August 2024, which I'll share shortly on the group. This one I already shared. I don't know whether we can all access it. If we can't, please kindly notify me in the chat that you don't have this question with you. But I shared it on the group. So as we go through it, I'll be just hinting on some, I'll be emphasizing some points, but if you have any queries, please also raise. Because after this topic, we are going to handle another topic. The next topic also has a bit of errors in it. The topic is bank reconciliations. When you're reconciling, when you're preparing bank reconciliations, still you deal with errors. So if we've not understood errors at this point, then it means we are going to continue being challenged even when we go to the bank reconciliations. That's why I took a step back before taking you to the next topic. So we are going to look at December 2024, question 6. And in our required, Roman number 1, prepare for GTSL for the period ended 30th June 2024. Journal entries to correct errors 1 to 9 above, then a suspense account, then a statement of corrected net profit. So let's go through these errors. And that is part B. I assume that part A, we are all comfortable with it. We've really gone through this a lot. Part A, I expect that you're able to answer that. So part B, Genuine Traders and Suppliers Limited, GTSL, has prepared its financial statements for the period ending 30th June 2024. So what I want you to note as you go through your questions for this paper, financial accounting, even as you advance to financial reporting, then advanced financial reporting, the period in which you're reporting within is very crucial. So this statement, period ending 30th June 2024, is not just for fun. It is not indicated for fun. It is going to determine a lot, especially if you're preparing your financial statements or any, I think basically financial statements, I can say. So the ending date of the reporting period is very important, because as you're given additional notes and information, you have to pick out information that is relevant for the period required. So they've prepared, it has prepared financial statements for the period ending 30th June 2024, reporting a net profit of 5,540,200. So this net profit is on an assumption. Like I explained that by the time you sit for your paper, you've gone through all the topics. You've gone through all the topics. So you understand this net profit when we start on financial statements, your statement of profit or loss. But now for this particular section, I will take you through that. And we are going to use this figure of the net profit to make the necessary adjustments to prepare this statement of corrected net profit. But at this point, I don't expect you to really understand a lot about that because we've not yet covered the topic of financial statements. So we continue. However, the credit side of the trial balance exceeded the debit side by 18,750,000. So I'll ask again and you'll give me answers in the chat box. Does this mean it is that the credit side had a less amount or the debit side had a less amount of the trial balance? Now we are looking at the trial balance. Your trial balance has the debit side, which you compute a total, and your credit side also where you compute a total. The assumption is the total has to be the same. If the debit side has 10 million, also the credit side has 10 million. But in this case, we are being told the credit side of the trial balance exceeded the debit side by 18,750,000. So which side had the less amount of the trial balance? Which side had the less amount? According to you, when you read this statement, which side had the less amount? I'd wish to hear from everyone, if possible. We are about 18. So unless those who came in maybe a little late and joined the class later and they're not really conversant, at least we can try. So most of us are agreeing it's the debit side. And from what I explained the previous time, let me just share an Excel sheet here. I want to really help you understand in the simplest way these concepts. So let me share something here. So our assumption, for example, if this is GTSL trial balance, for that period, we have our maybe details or particulars. Then we have the debit side, we have the credit side, and we have our shillings. Maybe in let's just summarize them in millions. Same here, we have our shillings. So what the statement that has been given means that, let me just go back to the amount shortly. So we've been told the credit side of the trial balance exceeded the debit side by 18,750,000. So 18.75 million. 18. So we are going to deal with this 18 0.75. Let me just put it here. 18 million, we are going to write it in for 750,000. So this may confuse you. Let me just, it's a little confusion. So what these guys are trying to tell us, for example, if we had our income or sales, let's say sales on our credit side, because sales are always on your credit side. When you make sales, you credit. You credit. So now credit side, maybe we had sales of, let's say 10 million. Then we had what else? Maybe we had bank. Maybe 10 million also. Then we had maybe rent expense of 5 million. Then we had payables. By payables, I mean creditors, suppliers demanding money from business. Just a minute. Sorry about that. So maybe we have creditors of 18,750,000. I just want to summarize this off. And maybe we have also an overdraft. We had an overdraft of 5 million. So our total this side, let's just put totals. So here we have 15 million. And here we have, what is the total this side? Can someone give me the total on the credit side? It is our total 15 million plus 18,750,000. We have 33,750,000. So basically what the statement means that this credit side had, when you subtract this 33 million from this 15 million, you get 18,750,000. So this side had more. 18,750,000. So what does that mean for us? That we create a suspense account. Suspense account here. Remember, all these accounts, meanwhile, you're bringing in balances from these accounts. So you're bringing in your balances from your sales account, bank account, rent expense account, payables, etc. So we shall create a suspense account.
Excuse me, madam. Excuse me, madam.
Yes, please.
The screen is not showing. We are just seeing the question. Your
Is it
screen is not
happening for
showing.
everyone? Is it a common problem?
Yes, for all of us.
All right, let me just reshare. Sorry about that. Let me reshare my screen. Are you able to view that?
Yes, madam, we can now see you.
All right, thank you for alerting me on that. So let me just quickly go back. So sales credit, 10 million. Bank debit, 10 million. Rent debit, 5 million. This is an expense. Payables, 18,750,000. Overdraft, 5 million. So we have said that our total on the credit side, or the statement given to us at the beginning of this question, that the credit side was more than the debit side by 18,750,000. So in the practical sense, this is what it means. I'm just using, these figures are not the real figures that were there. I'm just giving a demonstration. So it means this side, this debit side here, was less than this side, the credit side, by that 18,750,000. That's what the statement means. So immediately for you who has understood double entry and your knowledge of extraction of the trial balance, it means this entity GTSL, the accountant, had to create a suspense account. This suspense account. They had to create a what? A suspense account to balance off the debit side and the credit side. So what we are trying to do is to make sure that we have this total as the same as this side, like this same total this side. So we shall create a suspense account of the 18,750,000 to give us a total of 33,750 also this side. So this suspense account, it means the balance brought forward in the suspense account as we shall prepare it will lie on the debit side of the suspense account. If it happens the other way around, that it is the credit side that is less than the debit side, the balance will lie on the credit side of the balance sheet. So we shall take that balance brought forward on the credit side of the suspense account. So that's how you interpret that simple statement. It is just like one sentence, but it carries a lot of meaning. If you didn't have a good understanding of the trial balance and what a suspense account means, you may miss out that interpretation of that statement. So that's what I wanted to bring to light before we move ahead and to emphasize. So going back to the question, just confirm that you're able to view the screen for the question. Are you able to view the screen that has the question? All right, so that has been confirmed. So just, however, the credit side of the trial balance exceeded the debit side by 18,750,000. So I've explained the meaning of this statement. Upon further investigation of the information, the following discrepancies were identified, or the following errors were identified. So note number one, closing inventory on 30th June 2024 was valued at 14,250,000 and it was not accounted for in the books of accounts. So inventory is under assets. It is a current asset. So if it wasn't reported, it means it was omitted. It was omitted from those books. So we are going to reflect the transaction So we are going to reflect this transaction the way we could have reflected it in the first place, because it is an error of omission and it wasn't detected, or it didn't affect the trial balance. So since inventory is an asset, we shall debit that asset because it is there, it increased at the end of the period by that 14,250,000. However, inventory moves along with what is it called? The cost of sales, cost of goods sold. So we shall reflect inventory, we shall debit inventory, but you'll appreciate this when we deal with the financial statements. So we shall debit. This is our note number one. Note number one. We shall debit closing inventory with this 14,250,000. Then we are going to credit our trading account under costs of cost of goods sold. And this is profit or loss. So this transaction, in summary, affects the profit or loss. So we shall take this to our profit or loss from that formula, I think, which we all know, that for us to arrive to our cost of goods sold, from your introduction to financial accounting, cost of goods sold, you have your opening inventory. Then you add your purchases. Then you less closing inventory. So the reason why we are taking this to profit or loss is because of this, that formula that we the adjustments that we make to arrive to the cost of goods sold. But this debit side of this transaction is going to your other statement, which is your statement of financial position under your current assets. So this is under the asset side, this is under the income statement. So here you take to your statement of financial position, this one you take to your statement of profit or loss. The amount has to be reflected in both statements. That's why this double entry is like this. So that is note number 1. However, I don't really crack your minds about this. You'll appreciate this as we move on. So note number 2, note number 2, the interest on the loan of 5,270,000 remained outstanding. So in this statement, the interest on the loan of 5,270,000 remained outstanding. Interest on a loan is an expense. Remember, you go to the bank, borrow money, and that is the principal. Maybe you borrowed 100 million, and that is the principal. You take that to your statement of what? Financial position as a liability. That is your loan, 100 million under your liabilities. Then as you pay back that loan, you pay both the principal and the interest on that loan. For some of us who work for financial institutions here, you know that when you create a schedule for someone to pay back, they are paying back the principal plus the interest on that loan. So for assuming that this entity borrowed maybe 100 million and it has to pay back maybe 20 million that year, 20 million that year, and that 20 million is just the principal, then plus interest of 5,270,000. So their payment to the bank will be to 25,270,000. However, for us, we are interested in the 5,270,000 for this particular statement, and that is an expense to us. And when you go to your taxes and taxation, they will allow you that deduction because it is a what? It is an expense on the loan that you borrowed from the bank. So it is an interest expense. However, there is another statement here that it remained outstanding, which means these guys didn't pay it off in that period. The bank remained demanding GTSL interest of 5,270,000 by the end of the reporting period. So we need to reflect this transaction because it was also omitted. It is omitted. It was not detected by the trial balance because it was omitted. We need to expense it by debiting the interest expense account. Then also crediting another liability, which is interest expense payable. Like we have a payable under interest expense because it remained outstanding. We didn't pay it off. So we have a liability in our statement of financial position under our current liabilities of an accrued expense of interest expense or a payable of interest expense. So for us to correct this error, we shall reflect the transaction in this way. So we shall go to note number 2. Note number 2. note number 2. We've said we have interest expense. And this will go to your statement of what? Profit or loss, or your income statement of 5,270,000. Then we are going to credit your interest expense payable. This is a liability. Actually, let me put for you in the brackets for your revision purposes. For exams, don't put that. But as you're going through this particular solution, you'll be able, I can say current, it's a current liability. So we shall credit it. So you realize all this is about double entry. What am I dealing with? Is it an asset? Is it an expense? Is it a liability? Is it what? We are putting our knowledge of double entry to use. So which means that if you're good at double entry, whichever scenario you're given, you're able to identify how to correct those particular errors in that scenario. So number 3, let's look at note number 3. Note number 3. Note number 3. What is in our note number 3? The utility bill expenditure was understated by 1.2 million. So if you remember these errors, understated, overstated, or undercast, overcast, as long as it doesn't have, what can I say? It is just mentioned and it is left hanging. Just know you're going, that figure affected the trial balance, automatically affected the trial balance. So whichever understatement was made of that amount, or overstatement was made of that amount, affected your trial balance total. So since the utility bill expenditure was understated by 1.2 million, and when we expense, we debit. So if it were understated, are we going to credit the utility bill expenditure or debit it? I would want to have answers in the chat. Are we going to debit the utility bill or credit it? We've been told it is understated, which means an amount of 1.2 million was missed out, and we need to reflect it under our utility bill expenditure. So we are getting mixed answers. Okay, let me share my Excel here. I don't care even if we go through just through one question, as long as you people are able to understand this double entry. So assuming we have our utility, we can say utility expense account. And we have our debit side. Then we also have our credit side. So assuming maybe let me create another account here. Let me create another account also, just to, because I need to demonstrate what happens in day-to-day running of business. So we have our bank account, maybe. We have, or let's say cash. Or bank account. So for example, your landlord, maybe the landlord gave them an invoice of 1.2. Maybe they gave them an invoice of 2.4 million. 2.4 million. And they paid through the bank. So they will go and not the landlord, maybe electricity company or whatever, Umeme or the water, national water. They will come to their bank and credit their bank because they are paying through the bank with the 2.4 million. Let me just use shillings in thousands. But as the accountant is making their entries, they make an error. They will reflect a less amount. So this is a bank account. For it, it's okay. Instead of debiting the utility expense account with the 2.5, they'll come here and put bank for utility, because we had to debit utility with bank where we paid through with 1.2, okay, which is like half the amount which they had actually paid to the person. So assuming these are the what? Maybe the bank had also some other total this side, everything, and the bank account is balanced off and it has its balance. So the bank account will have the correct balance for on its side, which is taken to your trial balance. However, the utility expense account will have a wrong amount, which is 1.2. So you realize this is on the debit side, this is on the credit side. Now you're seeing where the imbalance is coming from in your trial balance. On the credit side, there is 2.4. Because literally when you take your bank balance, it will not be on the credit side in your trial balance because it will have a normal debit balance. That's if you've not overdrawn it. But as you compute that debit balance of that bank, you've included these other expenses you've made in the bank. And part of those expenses, you have that utility expense that you understated by 1.2 million. So which means whichever balance the bank has is correct. However, when you go to your utility account, that balance is not correct. So the trial balance will have a problem, definitely. So this correction of this error, you're not going to start dealing with a bank account. No, the bank account is okay. You made the right entry. However, the mistake was in the utility account. So for us to correct the utility account, we have to what? To debit it again. We have to debit it again with that 1.2 to make this 2.4. However, before you debit it, remember this imbalance, as I showed you here. This imbalance here was in your suspense account. That 1.2 is part of this 18 million in your suspense account. So that's why for errors that affect the trial balance, we correct them vis-a-vis the suspense account. Either we are taking money out of the suspense account, or rather not taking money, either we are debiting the suspense account or crediting the suspense account, depending on the circumstance of the transaction. So in this particular transaction, since it was an understated amount of a utility bill expense, we are going to first debit the utility expense or the utility bill expense account with the 1.2. But I have told you this 1.2 was part of this 18 million. This imbalance you had, this one. So, which other account is affected? It is no longer the bank account. The bank account has no business in this. You made the right entry in your bank account. So the mistake went to your suspense account as you're correcting the error. So we shall come here and credit the suspense account. We shall credit the suspense account with the 1.2. And we are done with that correction. Are we together up to that point? I need like confirmations in the chat. Are we together? Are you trying to, you may not be there 100%, but are you getting what I'm trying to explain? Good, most of us are saying yes. Okay. So let's go to note number 4. Let's go to note number 4. Note number 4. And what did note number 4 say? So note number 4, the payment of telephone costs of 700,000 was only recorded in the cash book. The payment of telephone costs of 700,000 was only recorded in the cash book. So it is quite similar to what I've just explained. It means when you go to your cash account, of course, the cash book has both the bank and the cash. So right now, let's assume it's only cash. If you go to your cash account, you'll find that 700,000 credited in that cash account because it was a telephone cost. They expensed that 700,000, they credited. But when you come to your what? Telephone expense account, the accountant missed out that transaction completely. So still, the cash account will balance off, but we shall have a problem with our telephone expense account, causing an imbalance in the trial balance. So we shall still come back because that imbalance went to the suspense account. We shall come here and smartly debit our telephone expense account. Telephone expense. It's 700,000 because we missed it out completely. But where did that error go? To your suspense account, because for the cash book, you did everything you had to do, and you extracted information, prepared your cash account, and your cash account balanced off. So we got the suspense account also and credit it. So once again, I think I mentioned this in the previous session. When you're dealing with errors, start with the side you feel you've understood. For example, in this statement, if you have easily understood that if the telephone expense was missed out, definitely we didn't debit the telephone expense account. Start with that entry of debiting telephone expense account, then you deal with the other entry. You look for that other account that is affected, either the suspense account or whichever account, if the error didn't affect the trial balance. So that is note number 4. Note number 5. Note number 5. Note number 5. Let's see what happened in note number 5. The purchases figure was undercast by 11,160,000. The purchases figure was undercast by 11,160,000. So I'd want in the chat to tell me the correction of this error. I assume we can all try to correct that error. What do we debit? What do we credit? You can give me the answers before I answer Haninsi. He has a question, but first give me the entry, the correction of errors for this note number 5. The purchases figure was undercast by 11,160,000. It is similar to this. Note number 3. They are similar, though different accounts. Good, so most of us are agreeing with debit the purchases account and credit the suspense account. So it is quite similar. Let me also demonstrate it for you here. Maybe you made your purchases of 21,160,000. So instead of, and we assume maybe you paid cash or paid through the bank. So we shall come here and 21 million. 21,160,000. Then we shall come here and make an error. Instead of debiting purchases with 21,160,000, we shall debit purchases with 10 million. We shall debit purchases with 10 million. So whichever, maybe it is a bank account, or maybe we purchased the goods on credit, payables account, maybe the entries there were correct. So this side, we make an error in our purchases account. So it means bank has no problem, or cash or whatever way that we made those purchases has no problem. However, we made a mistake here. So if it were through the bank, we have to correct this error by debiting these purchases with the 11,160,000. So this error is part of this 18,750,000 because they've not mentioned any other account that was affected. It was just one side that was understated, and that is the purchases account. So we shall come to this correction of errors and debit purchases with the 11,160,000. Then we shall credit the suspense account with 11,160,000. So Hamis had a query that does it mean, let me just read that. Does it mean that any understatement affects the suspense account? No, not all the time. Remember when we are looking at errors that don't affect the trial balance, there was an example of an error where the purchases were overcast by the same amount as the sales. For example, the purchases were overcast by 1 million and the sales were also overcast by 1 million. That error does not affect the trial balance. Then also you can have an error where maybe the purchases are undercast by 1 million and also the sales are undercast by 1 million. That error will cancel itself out and it will not affect your trial balance. Where you find undercast, overcast, understated, overstated, and the statement is hanging, like, I think that's the best word I can use, like it is on its own. There is no other mention. There is no other mention. For example, here, let me start with this one here. The utility bill expenditure was understated by 1.2 million and the examiner is silent. Just know that is an error on one side, the utility bill expense account. So if that utility bill expense was made through the bank did the right thing, like the accountant made the right transaction in the bank account. However, you made an error in the utility bill expense account. That affects your trial balance. Same for this one that we've just dealt with. That the purchases figure was undercast by 11,160,000. It is only affecting the purchases account, whichever account was dealt with in that double entry. The other side, the correct transaction was made. It is the purchases account that had an error. That's why we had a wrong balance in that for our trial balance. So it doesn't necessarily mean that when you see undercast, overcast, you're like, now that is suspense account. Unless the examiner has mentioned a scenario and there is no other account that is mentioned after. Maybe he could have said the purchases figure was undercast by 11,160,000 and the bank account maybe was credited less 11,160,000. You just know that error cancelled itself out. Okay, it cancelled itself out. Or the bank account was also undercast by 11 million, or what the bank account or the credit side of the bank account was undercast by 11,160,000. Just know they made an error on both accounts. So when we are correcting that error, we deal with both accounts, not the suspense account. Or the statement can be the purchases figure was undercast by 11,160,000, and also the sales figure was undercast by 11,160,000. So it was not detected by the trial balance. Let me hope that is meaningful. So there is another question here. So basically, does it mean suspense account comes in when error mentioned only affected one side of the account? You can say that, you can take it like that, but I wouldn't want you to cram. Don't cram double entry, understand it. Try to understand it, like the way I am reading the scenario, then going back to demonstrate to you those particular accounts and how it's like I'm giving you a history of how all this error happened. So I'd want you to understand and don't cram, because if you cram, the examiner loves crammers. He will just trick you in something small, then you'll misfire. But when you understand, you're able to interpret the scenario and make the right entry. But most cases, what you've mentioned is common. So any transaction that wasn't recorded at all, we reflect it off the expense suspense account. Yes, Gloria, it is the, like I can say 90% of the time, because that is an error of omission. You remember the acronym that Joseph created for you for those errors that don't affect the trial balance. When a transaction is not done, like it is out, that is an error of omission. So it is totally out of your trial balance. There is no way it could have affected your trial balance total. Yeah, so with more practice, you'll be able to pick up some of the concepts. Please remind me to share with you those questions in the past papers, not the particular questions, but for you to go and look for those questions in those past papers. You can get the revision kit from Apex or go to your ICPAU students account and download those past papers so that you practice more. Note number 6, the discount received of 1,380,000 shillings was credited to the discount allowed account. The discounts received of 1,380,000 was credited to the discount allowed account. So here we have two full accounts that have been affected. Instead of discounts received, I told you is sort of an income. So when we get a discount, we credit a discount received account. However, the accountant made an error. Instead of crediting discounts received, credited discount allowed. So this one is very simple. You just get the money out of discounts allowed where it was credited by debiting discounts allowed, then crediting the right account, which is discount received. So that's how we shall correct that error. It has nothing to do with your trial balance, nothing at all. It didn't affect your total of the trial balance. So error number 6, we are going to debit discounts allowed, because remember in the first place you made an error by crediting discounts allowed. So correcting that, we shall debit discount allowed with 1,380,000. Then we are going to credit the right account, which is discount received, with the 1,380,000. So there is no science here, there is no complication. Let's go to note number 7. Let's go to note number 7. The advertising costs of 6,400,000 were recorded as 4,600,000, but were correctly recorded in the cash book. Now, this is similar to what? To these other errors. For example, the utility bill expenditure was understated by 1.2 million. That particular error is similar to this. Okay, so or the payment of telephone costs of 700,000 was only recorded in the cash book. So it is just twisting around events, because literally the right cost of advertising cost was 6.4 million. And this accountant smartly went to the cash book and credited the cash book with a 6.4 million. However, when he went to the advertising costs account, he recorded 4.6 instead of 6.4 million. So did he understate the amount, or did he overstate it? What did he do? Did he understate or overstate the amount? You can give me the answers in the chat box. Did he overstate the amount in his advertising costs, or did he understate them? So he understated. That's why I was encouraging, I don't know, I think it was Kaitesi who was saying, does that mean always? No, understand. Now, if you don't understand, you'll be like, okay, they told us when it is both sides, there is no error affecting the trial balance. Yet in this particular scenario, this error is affecting your trial balance completely. So if you crammed that if two accounts are reflected, then there is nothing to do with the trial balance. The trial balance is not affected. Then here in this statement number Kindly pardon me, my internet was unstable. So let me just reshare my Excel. I wanted to demonstrate that transaction. So advertising costs, okay, advertising. Let's call them advertising expense. Then we have our cash account. Maybe I told you in the cash book, for some of us who covered the cash book, you have the bank column, you have the cash column, but this time let's just assume it is cash. And we are going to appreciate our cash book, the bank column, when we go to bank reconciliations. So let's go back to the statement. We try to understand it. The advertising costs of 6.4 million were recorded as 4.6, but we are correctly recorded in the cash book. So in our cash book or cash account for our assumption, we credited our cash with advertising costs of 6.4 million. However, we went to advertising costs and recorded only that we paid cash of 4.6. So in this scenario, cash account has no problem. Your cash book has no problem. The problem is in your advertising expense. So for us to balance off or to correct this error, which amount are we adding on to our advertising in our advertising expenses account? Which amount are we debiting here as cash given out? How much? For us to have that figure of 6.4, how much? That would have, so that's 1.8. Let me hope we all have that same amount, 1.8. So this 1.8 has no business here in your cash account at all because you made the right transaction in the first place. You credited your cash book with the right amount that actually was paid out for advertising expenses. However, when you went to your advertising expense account, you recorded less. And that imbalance between this cash account and this advertising account was taken to your suspense account. So this 1.8 is going to be picked from your suspense account where you had temporarily posted that amount. So note number 4, rather number 7, we have advertising. Some of our colleagues are going off. Let me hope it's for genuine reasons, because I will not come back to these concepts later on. I have given them enough time. So when we move forward, I'll assume that we are all on the same page. So we shall debit advertising costs with 1.8. Then we shall come to our suspense account. Like I said, this figure has nothing to do with your cash book. Your cash book was correctly, the transaction was correctly recorded in your cash book. So we go to our suspense account. Because there was an understatement of advertising costs. So let's go to note number 9 or 8, sorry, 998. 8. A payment to suppliers of 3,890,000 cash was only recorded in the cash book. A payment to suppliers of 3,890,000 cash was only recorded in the cash book. So this payment, you are paying your creditors or suppliers or your payables. So as you are paying them, you had to debit payables. You credit cash or bank because money is coming out of your cash or bank. Then you debit your payables. So if it was only recorded in the cash book, it means you credited the cash book with the 3,890,000, but you missed out a transaction or an entry in your payables account of 3,890,000 on your debit side. So this will automatically affect your trial balance. So note number 8. Note number 8. We shall debit trade payables with 3,890,000. Then suspense account with 3,890,000. So let's look at note number 9. Note number 9. The depreciation charge on new furniture and fittings acquired during the year of 2,625,000 was omitted in the books of accounts. Depreciation charge omitted. So this is an error of omission. It doesn't affect your trial balance. So depreciation charge for the year is expensed. You appreciate that when we go to your topic of non-current assets, but also when we deal with the financial statements. So depreciation charge moves hand in hand with the accumulated depreciation account. So we shall debit depreciation of furniture, because depreciation is an expense of furniture. and fittings with 2,652,000. Then accumulated depreciation. I'm going to abbreviate this, but don't abbreviate in your exams. Furniture and fittings with 2,652,000. So that's how we correct all those errors. There were 9 errors, so we've corrected them. We are done with correcting the 9 errors that were given to us. So let's prepare the suspense account. You remember what I mentioned here? Actually, I don't need even to go back to the question. Let me stick to the Excel because I demonstrated it for you. What I demonstrated here. We were told the credit side was more by the debit side by 18,750,000. So I told you that literally means that the balance brought forward of the suspense account lies on the debit side. And it is evident here in this demonstration or the example I used. So in our suspense account, so on the debit side, we shall have our balance brought forward of 18,750,000. So when you're preparing your accounts, please always name them. This is the title of the account, and also indicate the amount that is it shillings in thousands, is it shillings in millions, is it just shillings? So in this case, we are using shillings, not shillings in millions, shillings in thousands. So our balance brought forward is 18,750,000. So we are going to pick every figure that has affected the trial balance. And that is rather the suspense account, not the trial balance, or it's the same, one and the same. However, I meant the suspense account. So we shall start with a utility of 1.2 million. I think it was utility bill. Then we have telephone expenses, you remember? $700,000. Then we have purchases. Then we have advertising costs or advertising expenses. Of 1.8. Then we have trade payables. of 3,890,000. So you can see that this trial balance is, rather this suspense account is balanced off. So this here is the trick. Here is the trick. The moment you get your errors correctly, like you're able to correct your errors well, for you to go to your suspense account, just there is no interchange in this particular scenario. If you realize that here on this particular note number 3, the suspense account is on the credit side. Also here, credit. Also here, credit. Also here, credit and credit. So don't interchange, unless you're having the suspense maybe on the debit side of that particular transaction. So still, when you come to your suspense account, you will debit that particular account in your suspense account. So as you have seen here, we've come here, we have credited suspense account with the utility bill, credited suspense account with the telephone expenses, credited suspense account with purchases, credited purchase suspense account with advertising expenses. We have also credited suspense account with trade payables. However, you will have scenarios where you will have also your suspense account as you correct your errors on the debit side. You can have some this side, some on the credit side, some on the debit side. So you reflect wherever the suspense account has been reflected as you're correcting your errors. And at the end of the day, if the errors were corrected in the right way, that suspense account has to balance off, meaning that we have completely taken money or taken that amount out of the suspense account. We've corrected those errors and cleared them off. So from there, we go back and correct our trial balance. Then we move to preparation of our financial statements. And that is the next part here, where we are requested to prepare the statement of corrected net profit. Kaitesi has a question. Anyone willing to answer her? She's asking, I kindly request to repeat why the balance brought forward is on the debit side when question says trial balance credit side was higher. Anyone? I need a volunteer to answer Kaitesi. Anyone willing to volunteer? Okay, for the last time. Kaitesi, are you able to see the example that I pulled out? Okay, Martha is willing to help. Yes, Martha? Kindly help Kaitesi.
I don't know if I'm willing to help, and I don't know if I'll be helpful, but this is how, let me just give a scenario. So our trial balance is like 2 baskets. You have a basket that is your debit side and a basket that is your credit side. So ideally, they tell you in one basket you have 5 apples, the other you have 3 apples. So our credit side had 5 apples and our debit side had 3 apples. So to balance them, we had to put 2. The thing that was not there were 2 apples, ideally, which was our 18,750,000. So in order to balance, the side that needs to be balanced is where our suspense account goes. So ideally, in this case, it would be our debit side because the credit side is higher. So to balance the apples, we put them on the side that has the lower amount so that they are all equal. I hope I have explained it in like layman's terms, but oh well, someone else can go.
Thank you, Martha. I think you have quite simplified it. Thank you very much. Kaitesi, do you understand? Have you understood the explanation from Martha? Kaitesi, we are waiting for you. I know that statement challenges students. That's why I think I've gone back to it like 5 times. Okay, thank you very much. So when you go to your paper or when you're reading through when you're revising, make sure you pay keen attention to that statement. It can make you misfire. But also as you correct your errors, you're seeing it practically. You're practically seeing that the debit side, like what is it, like this imbalance on the debit side has to be corrected on the credit side here. That way we are preparing this suspense account. And you can see from your correction of errors, this is a credit. This is a credit. So which means the problem had a lot to do with the credit side as in the correction of errors. This is a credit. This is a credit. So that we get out the other balance or the imbalance that happened on the what? On the debit side. We correct it by making the right transaction to these right accounts, like the advert, because we shall go debit the advertising cost, which means they will increase our debit side. Then we shall go debit our purchases. They again increase our debit side, which means that that imbalance is reduced over time as we continue to debit these rightful accounts. We shall debit our telephone expenses, then we reduce that imbalance in the suspense account. We debit our utility bills, we reduce that balance on our debit side. Oh, so your confusion was because of what we usually do in the T accounts. Now leave that alone for the suspense account. Remember, the suspense account is like, what can I call it? It's like, what are they called? Which term can I use? Those fake businesses. You're creating a fake account. It is not supposed to be there. Because literally, as an accountant, upon reporting at the end of the period, you're supposed to report everything balanced off, all accounts balanced off. However, we realize that in our normal operation of business, it rarely happens that our things are balanced. So we create that fake account, which we call a suspense account, that the accounting standards allow us to create. However, we are not supposed to lay back and relax that, okay, I've not balanced off these accounts, all these ledgers are not balancing. Let me just post this imbalance to what? To this suspense account and relax. The standard requires that you go ahead to correct those errors and continuously reduce that amount in your suspense account till it is 0. So it is not like your normal accounts. I get you where you're coming from, because in these other T accounts, our balance carried forward at the end of the period flips over to the other side. So remember, you're dealing with a trial balance. Trial balance is at the end of the period, and it means you've balanced off all your accounts and everything is clear. So there is no more of now what was supposed to be on the debit has to go on the credit. No, the balance is either on the credit or the debit side, that imbalance. So just look at it independently. Don't compare it to these other accounts. Where the error is, where the imbalance is, that's where your balance brought forward is, in your suspense accounts. All right. So Hamis is asking, is depreciation 2,652,000? Which amount did I reflect? According to your question, what amount is it? 2,652,000, or you correct that? But I think we need even to correct it because it's going to go to our corrected net profit. Okay. Kindly confirm in the chat which amount it is. So our corrected net profit, if you remember this amount here at the beginning of the statement of the scenario, this one here. So depreciation charge is 2,625,000, not 652. We shall correct that. Please remind me. So Genuine Traders, GTSL, has prepared its financial statements for the period ending 30th June 24, reporting a net profit of 5,540,200. So that 5,540,000 is our net profit. But remember that net profit was with the wrong trial balance. We get balances from our trial balance to prepare our financial statements. So we got wrong amounts with errors and took them to our statement of profit or loss. Then at the end of the day, we had a net profit of 5,450,200. And we were relaxed. We were like, it is okay for us. We prepared our statements and we are done. However, errors have been noted. So we have to go back and correct that net profit. We have to go back and correct that net profit. Let me just correct this figure. So let's correct our net profit. So this is the format. We shall start with our reported net profit. One that is reported in our statements of 5,450,200. Then we are going to make the adjustments. If you remember, I told you for you to arrive to your cost of sales, cost of goods sold, this one, or cost of sales, or cost of sales. Cost of sales. Your formula is opening inventory, then you add purchases, then you less closing inventory. So what that means that in your cost, as you're coming up with your net profit, The figure that you reflect for your cost of goods sold is minus the closing inventory. Okay, it is minus the closing inventory. So now if we are correcting the net profit, which means we've already less the what? The cost of goods sold. We've already less the cost of goods sold from the sales to arrive to the gross profit, then we continue to our expenses, then arriving to the net profit. In correcting this, we have to add back that closing inventory. We are going to add back that closing inventory, because literally that closing inventory was list in a wrong way or something like that, or it was missed. It was not list in a wrong way. It was missed out. It was missed out because the statement was I think the error was what? Let me just go back to that error. Let me go back to that error. The error was closing inventory on 30th June 2024 was valued at 14,250,000, and it was not accounted for in the books of accounts. So it was completely omitted. So we didn't reflect it anywhere. We didn't reflect it anywhere. So we are going to add it back. We are going to add it back. It's like an adjustment that we are trying to make. We are going to add back that closing inventory. So upon adding back that closing inventory, we are going to also add back, you remember I told you discounts allowed, rather discounts received are like also some sort of income. So we shall first add the closing inventory, but this you may not really stretch your mind about it. As we shall practice financial statements, you'll be able to appreciate what I'm trying to explain. So for now, in case you're not understanding it well, please don't really stretch your mind so much. So discounts received, 1,380,000. Remember, this paper is set on assumption that you've covered all topics. So at this point, we have a total of 15,600,000. But let me hope that's what you have. 15,630,000 from 14,250 plus 1,380,000. So the 5 million plus 15 million, we shall get 21,080,000. Then we are going to less all the understated costs, starting with the interest expense, which was missed out. Remember, even if it is a payable, for us in our statement of profit or loss, it will be reflected. But all these concepts you're going to appreciate when we deal with financial statements. Utility bills. We shall come back to a good example of errors after we've covered the entire syllabus. Telephone, 700,000. Then we have purchases of 11,160,000. Then we have discounts allowed. Allowed of 1,380,000. Then we have advertising, 1.8. Then we have depreciation. I told you we reflect it as an expense. Depreciation expense of 2,625,000. So our corrected net profit is this. This guy is actually made a loss. So maybe also the accountant was trying to reflect wrong balances of accounts because already they had realized that they had made a loss instead of a profit. So when we correct our net profit, it comes to a loss actually of 3 million. But for this particular part of corrected net profit, you'll be able to appreciate it after you have gone through the statement of profit or loss. Right now, some of the concepts you may not get them or understand them at this point. But the main thing was about double entry and how it helps us correct errors. So from where we began in this session, I would want us to rate ourselves in the chat as usual. Where do you think you are as far as correction of errors is concerned? Which percentage can you give yourself? Are you at 40%? Are you at 20%? Are you at 30%? Are you at 50%? Martha is telling us she's at 50, good. 60 from most of us, 60. $30, $50, okay. Or you may even feel like I'm not anywhere, so, which is okay. However, I encourage you to practice these questions. I am going to prepare and share them with you. It may not be today, but I'm going to share this solution with you. Then also I'm going to share the past paper questions. Please try them out. I don't know how much I can beg you, because you will be caught off guard in that paper if you don't know errors. Like I showed you, for every sitting, I think for the last like 6 consecutive sittings, the examiner has set a number on errors carrying 20 marks. And for your CPA, please, even half a mark counts. I don't want you to experience it where the examiner gives you 49% and you have to go back. So the better for you if you at least try to understand and cover most of the topics and be conversant with them. Even those that you find challenging, you try to try out numbers, practice and practice and practice and practice till you feel like, okay, this topic, if it comes, and also the examiner uses the same tricks. He may twist or she may twist something small in the scenario. So if you've practiced questions like about a number of 6 questions in a particular topic, it is quite hard to be caught off guard. Okay, you may miss out some, but you kind of understand that mind of the examiner, that when they bring this statement, they mean this. When they bring this statement, they mean this. So especially for your double entry questions that are really like specifically for double entry, that is correction of errors, creation of ledger accounts, then What else? Extraction of the trial balance. So you go back and look at those past paper questions, practice them. Where you find a challenge, you reach out. Some of you have reached out to me. I'm yet to go through those questions, those answers. I've had quite a busy week. Pardon me for not getting back to you, but I'm going to get back to you. One of you sent me their trial balance, which I need to look through, but I wait upon also others to reach out. Okay, do we have any inquiry before we close this session? Any inquiry?
I had asked a question.
Yes, I didn't see that. Sorry, I missed it.
It's okay.
Gloria, please go ahead and ask the question.
Oh, I was asking, I came in a little bit late, but I noticed before we made the error entries, the ones that were correcting the errors in the trial bundle, you were first making the T accounts for the different accounts. Do we have to do it even in the paper? We first make the T accounts, then put in the journal entries for the correction.
No, you don't need to do that. I was just demonstrating for the class to understand where is the error coming from and why are we correcting it and how did it affect the trial balance. But while you have time, in your workings, you can create those T accounts, but I know they don't earn you marks. They don't earn marks, especially now for this particular scenario. The question had 9 marks, that part A, that part B, part B, Roman numeral 1. It had 9, and those are the 9 entries, those are the 9 transactions. So in that particular scenario, you didn't have marks for working. Yeah. So it's not necessary, Gloria. I was just demonstrating how the errors came about. All right, any other inquiry? Okay, so for our next topic, we are going to start on bank reconciliations. And on Monday, we shall be looking at bank reconciliations. Okay, have a good night. I'm going to share this solution with you. I think just after this session, then for the past paper questions, I'll share, I think tomorrow or before the week ends.